Hi everyone and welcome to another book review. This time it's about The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. Now, I might be slightly biased towards this story because of two reasons. First, this is a story I love to read about. It's a calm and detailed observation of one person's experience. And this is the type of story I love to read because I like, as I mentioned before, character driven stories, and this one is definitely one of those. And the second reason is I know a lot of Santiagos, but I will get into this reason later on in the review. Now, what is The Old Man and the Sea about? It's on a very basic level the story of this old fisherman called Santiago. He hasn't really caught a fish or a big fish in quite a while, and this at this point of the story he goes out for another try to catch a fish. This time around he has to go alone since the young boy who used to go with him doesn't or can't go with him now because his parents don't really appreciate the contact they have because Santiago is considered an unlucky fisherman, and that's why the young boy can't really go with the old man in this story. And what we follow particularly in this book is the story of Santiago trying to catch a fish, and eventually, maybe you will have to read the book to find out, get this fish. So it's a story about what happens out in the sea. And in this book there are many Hemingway-esque sentences or lines like, example, "It is what a man must do," or "I will show him what a man can do and what a man endures." But my favorite line is, "He rested sitting on the unstepped mast and sail, and tried not to think, but only to endure." And this particular sentence really stuck with me because it's something it's a very human emotion or a very human experience to try not to think about things but only to try to go through them without too much thinking, because when we would start when we would start to think, it would immediately set off like a row of thoughts that would not help us get through a situation. So that's why I chose this quote to talk about. But there are many things I underlined, as you can see. For example, here I always underline with a purple liner, and there's a lot of purple in this book, so that should tell you how much I liked it. And I think Hemingway's writing style is extraordinary in its brilliance and in its uniqueness as well. And there is a small note in the beginning of my copy. It's by Arrow Books, or the publisher is Arrow Books, and there's always a small note about the author and his works at the beginning of those books. And a note or a line said, "His direct and deceptively simple style of writing spawned generations of imitators, but no equals." And I think that really sums up Hemingway's ability to write and his writing style. Now, I could go into all of the heavy symbolism that is featured in this book, and for what the book is most well known. For example, how the dreams about the lions could be connected to his youth or the memories of his youth, how the fish symbolizes a much bigger struggle or much bigger struggles. And also I could point towards the many instances of religious symbolism or religious imagery. Not that this is a religious book in any way, it is definitely not, but I did a bit of that in my written review on my blog. So if you would like to read more about the symbolism in this book, definitely go check that out. I will link it in the description thingy thing. But in this review, I would like to look at 2 observations I've made while reading, and then go into a more personal observation as well. For me personally, The Old Man and the Sea is a very deeply respectful story. We have the young boy who really respects the old man and loves him and admires him. We also have the same reaction by the old man towards the boy, but also, which is quite surprising if we see that it's a story about fishing, the deep respect Santiago has for the fish, and how much he loves him and how much he sees him as a friend. He repeatedly calls the fish a friend. But we also have the respect and admiration for Santiago when he returns and is practically like has lost his battle. Spoiler, but okay. And this is what really surprised me. First I thought they will laugh at him and look at him in like this really, they will look down on him. But they are really sorry for what he went through, and they deeply respect him and still see him as a hero. And I think this really shows how much respect is in this story, it is packed into this story. And another point I want to make is that I found it really fascinating. This book is 99 pages, or my edition is 99 pages, and it's a complete story. It could not be longer or shorter. It's good the way it is. There's not a word or a sentence that could be added. It's perfectly crafted in these 99 pages, and it's really a complete story. There's nothing to add, there's nothing missing. We don't really want more of the story. We have a complete story in 99 pages. And again, this really shows Hemingway's ability to narrate the story within so little time, actually. And I don't think anyone really is able to do that in the same way Hemingway did it in this story. Now again, this is a tale full of symbolism, and it's what this book is most famous for. And it's not really about the old man and fishing, but the symbolism behind that. But for me personally, I was also very moved by the story itself. And this has a personal background, because I think everyone who spends or has spent an extended period of time near sea or the ocean knows its ability or its force to bring back memories or ghosts from the past. And strangely, when we fall back into old behavior patterns or patterns of behavior when we are near the ocean and we do things we might not do, or at least that's how I feel and how I observed those actions during my time. I spent a lot of time during the summer in Italy, and always when the moment comes where I have to leave this place, it's always looking back to the ocean and the sea when I feel the most melancholy. And I think it's fascinating to see this, and this is where I draw the sentence, I know many Santiagos, because again I spend a lot of time or a lot of my summer in Italy, and there are tons of Santiagos there, and I know this story plays in Cuba and is inspired by real life people there, but to me, I think everyone knows someone that is like Santiago, and I know and I meet a lot of those type of men when I'm in Italy during the summer. I know an old man who tries to navigate a playboat because he apparently can't navigate a big boat or a real boat anymore. I know old men who still meet up like they went or like they want to go fishing, even though they don't, and they just sit there and talk about the old experience. And I see old men sitting on park benches and having the same bruises Santiago has, and I think we all know those. And for me, the place I go to is also known for fishing, so this story has quite an emotional appeal to me as well, because I see them, and through them I see all of us and our struggle. And having this background and knowing those stories really deeply move me, and I think it's a very unique experience for myself and would be a very unique experience for anyone who is familiar with the type of man described in Hemingway's story, especially in The Old Man in the Sea. So I think, to me, everyone should read this book, and it's a really masterfully crafted story, and it's appealing in two different sides. It's literally appealing for the story in there, but as well also for an emotional appeal, because we all know at least one man who could have easily portrayed, for example, Santiago in a movie. So I would highly recommend, if you haven't picked up any Hemingway, maybe try this one. And I am sure, even if you don't really enjoy the story, you will get something out of it. So this was my review of Ernest Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea. It was something a little bit different, but definitely make sure to check out my written review as well, where I go into more of the symbolism. Definitely let me know if you have read this story, if you have read any Hemingway, and I will see you next time. Bye!